She's not what you'd expect. She's tough and feisty, but gentle and tender. She makes millions and gives millions to the poor. She cries, she laughs, she teaches, she comforts. This is the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Welcome to the Dani Johnson Show. Today is that one day a week where we just kind of put everything on a spiritual focus. And why? Because when your spiritual life is a mess, or it's dry, or even brittle, or it's like, I don't know, like just blah. Everything else in your life is going to be blah. If it's dry, everything else in your life is going to be dry. If it's a mess, everything else in your life is a mess. At least that's what it is for me. The best success book ever written was by far the best book I could ever find. Growing up on welfare, pregnant at 17, homeless at 21, but millionaire by 23. I met the Savior, my Messiah, when I was 13 years old, growing up in a house with an atheist and an agnostic, filled with drugs and violence. I was violently abused, grabbed by the throat, shoved up against walls, to be cursed at by a man who was nearly 7 feet tall. Molested by that same man. First time I was molested, I was 3 years old by a stranger who grabbed me out of an alley and brought me into his bed. Friend, my whole past was filled with so much tragedy and trauma, pain, and a ton of suffering. By the time I was 13, I had been suicidal for many, many years, in fact, about 7 years. And then I met my Savior. I heard a message in a little schoolhouse that for some reason really impacted my life. And I gave my life over to the living God. And that changed a lot of things for me until I had, started on the journey and started going to youth group and started meeting a bunch of other Christian kids that then, they lived kind of a dual life, which was very, very confusing. They actually kind of lived a life similar to my parents, but then they could quote scripture and, act right in front of their parents, but they had this whole other life that they were living behind the scenes. And I got really, really discouraged after a pregnancy that resulted in a whole lot of manipulation, a whole lot of condemnation, criticism, tons of judgment from the so-called righteous people. And so from there, I walked away and I said, God, if I have to be anything like your people, I want nothing to do with you. And I had some pretty colorful language at that time. But that same God met me again on a beach while I was homeless at 21, where I had destroyed myself. I was homeless. I was giving my body over to anyone that would have it. I was messing around with drugs. I was severely abusing alcohol. And I was abusing myself. I hated myself. Every day with those suicidal thoughts telling me to just end it, that no one is ever going to love you. You won't be able to ever trust anybody. Everyone is always going to screw you over. Everyone's always going to steal from you. See, I was 21, and my daughter, who I gave birth to at 18, was not with me. I was alone, abandoned by my first husband, by my friends. I found myself to be the victim all the time, and nothing ever working out for me. And I really believe that nothing ever would work for me. So at 21, that same voice that I met on a beach on Christmas Day that said, pick up your mat and walk. The very next day, that voice guided me to start a business from the trunk of my car in a payphone booth. I made $250,000 that next year and my first million by the end of that second year. And this happened by the time I was 23. I then found this book again. Yes, the best success book ever written, the Bible. And I didn't realize how much I had been following it and how it actually had helped me with people, how it helped me with money, and how it helped me with business and starting businesses and growing businesses. That all those things that I learned in that little schoolhouse that actually forced us to have one class a day of this book, that those things actually had penetrated inside of me, and I began to use them to become very, very successful at a very young age. Well, I then totally rededicated my whole life back to him And that's when everything began to change. If I were to say that everything became perfect after that, that'd be a lie. That is not how it went. I still suffered through trauma. I still had messes in my life. I still had financial messes even in my life, marriage messes in my life. And often felt like a failure and that I would never amount to anything. And as I began to read this book, I found some really powerful things that helped to guide me through all of those super dry times, those super brittle times, those bitter times, those confusing times, those times of feeling blind and not being able to figure out my life, those times of being totally dissatisfied with everything, dissatisfied with my marriage, dissatisfied with my work life, dissatisfied with my finances. And I seem to have never felt good enough to have real success. I found a passage many years ago. In fact, it was about 15 years ago. I found a passage. Yeah, it was about 15 years ago that I found a passage in the Bible that really impacted me greatly. And at this time, I had been retired for about 3.5 years. And while I was retired from business, I found myself to be more miserable than when I was actually working part-time in business. Even though I was home with all the kids and I was growing a garden and making bread every day and rolling out fresh pasta every day, and yeah, our finances were nowhere near what they were when I was working, and I had shut down a business 4 years before and retired. It was due to health problems and major stress issues. And so during this retirement, I found myself just so, again, more dissatisfied than when I was dissatisfied when I was working. I found myself less fulfilled. And it was confusing. I felt terrible about that. And I remember just like crying out to God saying, gosh, man, like this is why, like I have a good life. Why am I so sad? Why am I so depressed? Why am I so unfulfilled? And I came across a passage that I want to share with you today. There's 2 passages that I believe are not only going to add some excitement to your life, but it also might be the answer to what you're looking for. That you might be in that place where you feel trapped, where you feel like things don't seem to be getting better, that you feel unsatisfied, that you feel that no matter what you try, it's just not happening, it's just not working. Now, when I first read this passage to you, it might not connect, but I want you to allow it to sink in, both of these things, to sink in into your life. Because how do we get to the place of being dissatisfied? How do we get to that place of feeling unfulfilled? You know, we work and we strive for all of these things and accomplishing all these things, or like, when I get married or after I have kids. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we have these things that we want to check off of our box that we think somehow is going to make us happier or more fulfilled or more satisfied. And sometimes they just don't, right? And you end up going, gosh, like, how does this keep happening to me, right? Okay, well, let's read this passage. I'm reading from 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 10. Again, that's 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 10. So again, I'm retired. I'm young. I have 5 kids. I'm got a garden. I thought that this would make me super happy. It didn't. Just nothing seemed to, right? And I come across this passage that says this. Well, actually, let's start up at verse 9. So in 1 Chronicles is largely about the kings, right? The kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. And the most of actually the first 4 chapters are literally just genealogy or what has been taking place and who begot so-and-so and whose son is so-and-so and things like that and what this son did or what this son didn't do. And so the top of chapter 4 is literally just genealogy. And so it's just a line of genealogy. And then just out of nowhere, it says this. And Yebetz was more esteemed than his brothers, and his mother called his name Yebetz, saying, because I bore him in pain. Could you imagine naming your child because I bore you in pain? That your name actually means pain? That is not very nice. I mean, what a terrible word to speak over your beautiful little baby. And what, did she have some expectation that she wasn't supposed to have pain in childbirth? Like, really? So anyway, out of nowhere, it just has genealogy. It's just all these kings' names and their sons' names. And then it comes to, and Yebetz, right? And he was more esteemed than his brothers, and his mother called his name Yebetz, saying, because I bore him in pain. Now, chapter 10. And Yevetz called on the Elohim of Israel, saying, Elohim, by the way, means God in Hebrew. And my Bible keeps the Hebrew names. It says the names in Hebrew versus saying them in English. All right, so it says this. Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my border, and that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, not to be my pain. And Elohim gave him what he asked. Look at this. Here is this random person in this whole line of genealogy. His mother names him Pain, but it says that he had more favor than all of his brothers. So let's just pause right here. That no matter what it is that your mother or your father or your siblings or people from your past, coworkers, whatever, no matter what it is that they have spoken against you, no matter what curse they have spoken against you, we see very, very clearly that God the Father sees all, hears all, and says, so sorry, he is not going to be a man of pain. And I love the boldness of this man who knows his name means pain. I mean, at what point do you just rename yourself? You know what I'm saying? I probably would have renamed myself, but maybe that was a totally dishonorable thing to do at that time. It probably would be a totally dishonorable thing to do anyway, no matter what time. But here, even though he has the name Pain, even though he's known his entire life that his mother bore him in pain and that was the most significant thing that she could say about her son, that did not stop him. So the word curse, if you will, that word or that demeaning name that was given to him did not stop him from saying, okay, so my life is supposed to be about pain. I guess that's all I bring on my mother. I guess that's all I bring on my father. I guess that's who I am. I guess that's who I will always be. I guess that's what my life is always going to be. See, I'm in pain again. See, this painful thing happened to me with my wife. See, this painful thing happened to me with my children. See, this painful thing happened to me with my business or my job. See, I lost all that money. That's not what this guy did, at least that we can see inside these passages. But what he did do in regardless of what his name was, regardless of how his mother saw him, regardless of how his mother positioned him or how anyone else positioned him, he had the boldness to cry out to the God of Israel and say, bless me and bless me indeed. What? Bless me and bless me indeed. You see, there's a lot of people that do not ask God to bless them. And there's some of us that believe we don't deserve to be blessed. There's some of us that have been taught through church that it is wrong to desire to be blessed, which is like a complete fallacy that is completely against the entire Bible. There are some people who have been led to believe that if they ask to be blessed or they desire to be blessed, then it is that they are greedy, that it is selfishness to ask to be blessed, that it's wrong to ask to be blessed of the God of Israel. But we can see all the way through the Bible, there is so much blessing that is in here, and there is so many places where people are asking for a blessing from somebody else. And it is even of Hebrew and Jewish tradition to bless your wife, to bless your children, to bless your husband every single Friday night on Shabbat. It is of the tradition that they're always looking for the opportunity to speak a blessing, to give a blessing, and to receive a blessing, especially from your parents, right? So look, so here we have Yevetz, Jabez in English. So we have Yevetz who is simply saying, okay, I don't care what my name is and what anyone has spoken about me, that I'm pain. Oh God of Israel, bless me and bless me indeed. Enlarge my borders. Enlarge my territory. Enlarge. And let's talk about that. Okay, bless me. Bless me and bless me indeed. We also see this with Jacob, Yaakov, who God changed his name to Israel, who the entire nation of Israel is named after, right? The 12 tribes of Israel. Israel was Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. And what was it? He was wrestling with God, and he says, I'm not letting go until you bless me. I'm not letting go until you bless me. Have you asked for the God of Israel to bless you? Have you asked for the blessing from your grandfather who's a good man, or your grandmother who's a good woman, or of your parents who are good people? And if you do not have good bloodline, people, that are drug addicts or abusers, well then, you might not want to ask for a blessing from that, but you can ask the God of Israel for the blessing on your life. You can ask him for this daily. So 15 years ago, I found this passage, and I began to pray this same exact prayer every single day for over a year straight. And I'm telling you, what came out of praying the same exact prayer is going to shock you. I literally went from this incredibly dissatisfied and deeply depressed woman, unfulfilled, and feeling guilty about the fact that I was unfulfilled, feeling guilty that I was depressed, feeling guilty that I was unsatisfied, that here I had been blessed with 5 children, here I had been blessed with a good husband, here I had been blessed with finances, right? Even though the finances were much lower at that time than they were in just a few years before, because again, I retired. So, we cut our income down by close to $1 million a year, and now it was like less than 6 figures at that point. And so here I begin to pray this. Oh, God of Israel, that you would bless me indeed, that you would enlarge my borders, that you would protect me and keep me from evil so that it does not pain me. I prayed that every day, and something began to be birthed. Something powerful got birthed inside of me. And what was it? You see, I had believed I would never speak again. My career prior to retiring was, we had 2 businesses. I had a training and management company where I trained and developed leadership. I trained and developed people in business. I trained and developed people in finances and communication skills and marketing and sales. And I had thought I would never, ever do that again. I thought I would never, ever be involved with helping people grow their lives, grow their incomes. I just thought, okay, that's over. That's done. I'm just supposed to be a mom. I've got 5 kids, and this is what I'm supposed to do. All of a sudden, listen, I believe so wholeheartedly that I wasn't supposed to do that anymore. I sold my suits. I sold many of them. I burned my notes from all the materials that I had written. I burned them. I had just so believed that it was never, ever, that it was over, that it was actually almost like a fake life, that I had convinced myself of that in my retirement. But all of a sudden, April of 2003, just months after I was praying this prayer, oh, that you would bless me and bless me indeed. That's like fully bless me with everything you've got. Bless me indeed. Bless me with everything you've got. Bless me according to your riches, not according to my needs. Bless me in every area of my life. Bless my spirit, bless my mind, bless my physical body, bless my eyes and my ears, bless the inside of me, bless the outside of me. Bless me with great relationships. It's just bless me indeed. Bless me indeed is that's the fullness of everything you got to bless me with. And enlarge my border, enlarge my territory. At the time, I really didn't know, and again, look at this, keep me from evil. Keep me away from evil, that it does not pain me. So slowly but surely, my dissatisfaction began to leave, and a seed of vision started to be planted. And the thing that I thought was dead, the vision of changing lives every day, that I thought was dead, it was gone. The dream that I had had before that was dead, friend, here's what happened. It started to come back to life. It literally got rebirthed. It began to grow, and I began to see what I had done in the past and all the lives that had been changed and all the people that were led to God and all the money that people had made and all the debt that people had paid off. I had been in darkness for 4 years. But as I began to pray this prayer every single day, my emotional territory began to enlarge. The territory of vision began to get bigger. And now all of a sudden, I had a desire and I had this thing inside of me that says, I have to do something. I have to do something. Well, that was April of 2003. By August of 2003, DaniJohnson.com had been started. A website, a free website that began to help and train and develop people again, helping millions of people pay off debt, helping millions of people learning how to grow their income, saving their marriages, becoming more effective at home, and feeling more fulfilled with their children, and reducing their stress, and becoming more effective at work, and being able to grow in their careers or their businesses. So just a few months later, DaniJohnson.com gets started. And millions of dollars gets made. That then now millions of dollars goes to the poor. And it all started with this. So what does that look like? Come on. Bless me indeed. So I want you to get over the excuse that you don't deserve to be blessed, because your Father in heaven wants to bless you and wants you to agree with him. Come and ask him for the blessing. This is why he was wrestling with Jacob. I'm not letting go of you until you bless me. Look at that boldness to say, bless me. The source of all blessing from heaven wants you to ask for that blessing. I challenge you to ask for this every day, to enlarge my borders. What is that? Well, it turned out to enlarge my influential territory, to enlarge my emotional territory. I had so much emotional bondage, depression, right? Just major depression. Go back to bed after, dealing with the kids and just pull the covers over my head and just cry my eyes out. To now, whoa, fulfillment and satisfaction. He enlarged my mental territory. He enlarged my influence, where I just had influence in my home with my family, to now having influence over millions of people all over the world. Enlarged my financial territory. Enlarge my borders, enlarge my territory. You see, you have financial territory, emotional territory, mental territory, spiritual territory, influential territory. Guess what else you have? You have work territory. You have physical territory. He wants to bless you. If he did it for Jabez, Yavetz, why wouldn't he do it for you? Yavetz had a curse of pain on his life. But that did not stop him from saying, bless me indeed. Bless me indeed. Enlarge my territory. Keep me from evil so that it will not pain me. I challenge you, friend. I want you to pray this every day. Do it for the next 12 months of your life. And let's see what happens. Because the God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, the God of Israel, owns everything. You're his child. He desires to bless you. He desires to enlarge your territory. He desires for you to believe and to trust in him. That if he could do it for this random guy in this line of lineage who had a curse from his mother called pain on his life, I believe that God did that to show you and me that he can do it in us. That no matter what odds it is that are against us, we've got one much bigger and better in our corner that will enlarge all the territory in our life. Financial, our investing territory, our physical territory, emotional, mental, spiritual, our influential, our social territory. He is going to grow it. Will you believe it? Will you align yourself as Yavetz aligned himself with him? God did it for him. He's going to do it for you. Will you not at least give it a chance to believe it? Will you not at least utter the words from your mouth? I've started praying this prayer every day starting about 2-3 weeks ago. I'm amazed of how quickly things can shift. Places that you can go. Things inside of your heart that can get moved when you simply just ask him to do it. And I believe the prayer of Yvette's has all of it in it. Enlarge my territory. At the time I prayed it, I didn't know what kind of territory I was asking to be enlarged. No idea. I didn't have something specific that I wanted to grow. But what he began to do is he began to enlarge my emotional territory, mental, spiritual, physical, and then bam, our social, our influential territory, our financial territory, our investing territory, our business territory, which didn't even exist. The business was not even birthed yet. But he enlarged all of it. So he's got a plan for you. He's got something in you he wants to do. Will you not allow him to do it? You know what else came out of it? This right here. Spirit-driven success. That's also what came out of it. This is by far my most favorite thing I've ever written. It's tied between this and grooming the next generation for success. When I started praying that prayer, I had no idea that this book was in me. I had no idea that all the financial training that I had learned from the Bible that resulted in making millions of dollars would end up in a book. That the book that just lays it out, the difference between poverty and wealth. It's time-tested biblical secrets that create wealth while serving others. So actually following the Bible and having the Bible walk you along in creating wealth. He said that he's given us the power to create wealth in Deuteronomy 8:18. But given us the power to create it. This talks about how to create it. What are those secrets in there? What are the secrets to poverty? What's the secrets to wealth? It might help you to find out. So you might be walking along the line of poverty and not even realize it, and you can quickly switch over to enlarge your financial territory in the wealth category. You need a copy of this. This book's gone all over the world. In fact, the first 4 months, 60,000 copies flew from our warehouse around the world, to Italy, to the Philippines, to Canada, to U.S., and we were not published with a publisher. It was a self-published book. This thing went crazy. The first comments that we've gotten from all these years have been, I read it in 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I wept page by page by page. The answers I've been longing for, the things that I've desired to know, I now know. This was so simple. We have homeschool moms making sure their sons and daughters are reading this book as part of their financial education, as homeschooling their children to make sure their children do not wind up with the financial bondage that the parents picked up in some cases from church, or the financial bondage they picked up even from their parents. It's a simple little book. Spirit-driven success. Get your copy today. You can go to the website right now to get it. DaniJohnson.com. DaniJohnson.com. Click on shop, and you're going to find Spirit-driven success. And if you want to get crazy and you want the words to begin you, pick up the audios that go with it. There's 10 CD training program that goes along with this book, Spirit-Driven Success. I've got one client, Stuart Lynn. He's listened to it more than 500 times. It's actually the number one thing that he listened to out of our entire library. That every day he had a long commute. He listened to those CDs over and over and over again and let it get into him because he had so much of a poverty mentality, so much weakness that was inside of him. His territory got enlarged as he began to learn these very powerful, biblical, time-tested, powerful steps and strategies that just break your mind free and start to move your feet in the direction that they're supposed to go. Get a hold of Spirit-Driven Success today. Begin to read it immediately and begin to unwire that brain that causes you to think you shouldn't be blessed and that your territory cannot be enlarged. Go ahead and get it today. Spirit-Driven Success, DaniJohnson.com. Click on shop, grab a hold of the audios that go along with it, and your world is going to be rocked like powerfully. So, God bless you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.